All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Foster Files. I am Kelly, and I'm a foster with Cross Your Paws Rescue in the Western Pennsylvania area. And I have a really great guest for you guys today. I have Lauren with us today. You guys have heard about Lauren. She's with Choose Wisely Dog Training, and she is the trainer who has come in and really helped me get a better understanding of Max. And she's just such an amazing wealth of knowledge. So, we're going to talk to Lauren a little bit about her experience in training, how she became a dog trainer, and then hopefully, we're going to leave today with some tips on some of the basics that people struggle with when they get a dog. So, hi, Lauren, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you. I'm really happy that you're on. It's always really fun talking to you. You always teach me a ton. So I want to get started and I want to talk a little bit about how did you get into training dogs and how long
Okay.
you've been doing it for?
Sure. So I had a dog before my current dog who was so easy. He was so eager to please, just the sweetest. And then I got my current dog, Emma, and I didn't train her at first because I didn't want to break her spirit, and don't judge me on that. So we went down. She became the terrible teenager that she was, and she actually had an incident with a neighbor's dog that she bit the neighbor's dog. So I hired a trainer and they put an aversive on her. They like said to throw pennies at her if she was misbehaving in the car. And it just felt wrong. Like it just felt like some of the rules that they were giving me, if I'd followed them, she wouldn't be a dog. She would be just like a little robot. And I didn't want that. So I happened to come across Handover Rover on Instagram, and she does positive reinforcement. Um, and I started to learn just there's another way to do it. Like you don't have to use aversives, you don't have to use fear. So I went further down the rabbit hole, found a few more trainers, and then was talking to a colleague who his wife became a dog trainer, and I realized like I could do this. So that's kind of where I started. And then there's just a plethora of information out there that if you want to learn, there's tons of ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean, love or hate the internet, but you can learn just about anything you want to learn online anymore, which is cool. Of course, there's a lot of bad information too, but we try to pick out the good, right? So, who
Absolutely.
would you say inspired your training style?
I actually made a list because I didn't want to forget anybody. First and foremost, I would say Denise Fenzi. She's more of a sports dog trainer, but she has a great academy that has online classes, including tons of trainers. I've taken a few from her. Amy Cook does a playway, so instead of teaching your dog kind of like a drill sergeant, use play, which is phenomenal. And I wish more people knew that. I'm not ready to personally roll that out for my clients, but that is something I'd like to get better at. Kim Brophy is another one. She's an ethologist we can go into that a little bit more detail down the road in this conversation. I took a class with Professor Ha from University of Washington that I still use him to go through. Michael Shikashio does an aggressive dog, and then I have a mentor, Madison Simpson, who has a phenomenal life story and a really interesting way she got into training also.
So you're using so many different influences in approaching your training style. How do you assess a dog that you're going to train, and how do you decide which of those particular influences or what combination of them might be the best for that particular dog?
A lot of it depends on the dog itself. That Michael Shikashio, for example, does aggressive dogs, so I would use more of him if their dog is aggressive, reactive. Like I said, Amy Cook does a playway that I think that's great for all dogs because dogs weren't necessarily meant to be living in a house during the day while we're at work and then come home. We normally walk them, most people, generally speaking, walk them, make dinner, and then want to hang out. The dogs were really 30 years ago outside because, well, I guess 60 years ago now, where the worst of the time, but like in the 70s, there wasn't flea and tick medicine. So most dogs were outside dogs that dogs have really come a far way in the past. I can't do the math right now, like 80 years that, I mean, they were outside and now all of a sudden they're inside and they're a little bit more sedentary than they're used to.
Right. We have decided that dogs should fit our lives. as opposed
Exactly.
to us fitting the dogs a lot of times. Um, one of the videos you recently posted on Instagram that I loved was you talked about in the video, and it was just a short little reel about how different breeds of dogs are bred to do different work. And
Mhm.
really understanding that about the breed of your dog can help you be successful in understanding, like, this dog needs mental stimulation, or this dog needs a job, or this dog needs physical stimulation, or whatever that might look like. And I think that not enough people are taking that into consideration when they are deciding what dog to, unfortunately purchase or adopt or whatever.
1000%. And Kim Brophy has a phenomenal book called Meet Your Dog, where she divides the dogs into groups. And then from the group, she says, this is common issues you may have because these dogs were bred to do this activity, whether it's hunting, whether it's guardian, whether it's hurting. Commonly, like when they go into a household and they're not getting what they need enrichment wise, exercise wise, you're going to probably see these common problems. That it's a phenomenal resource and I can't recommend it enough.
So say the resource again. I know you said her name is Kim Brophy.
Yeah, it's Meet Your Dog. It's a book, but then she also has one pagers that I can send you after this that's just specifically the group of dog, the breed, like the breeds that are in that group, common problems that she encourages us to hand out at shelters and rescues. So I would love to distribute that to anyone who's interested.
Yeah, what I'll do is I will find her information online and I'll link her
Okay.
website in the show notes, and I'll put it on the Instagram page as well. And then that way people have a really quick way to get that resource. But I think that's so great. I know we have talked a lot about our individual paths and what we've done as far as training is concerned. And I know one of the things that I mentioned to you is that I've never been a formal trainer when it comes to my dogs. Like, I've never, you know what I mean, I've never been the kind of person to be like, my dog has to learn how to sit, my dog has to learn how to lay down, my dog has to learn place, my dog has to learn all that. How do you approach somebody like me who is a lot more laxed, right? Like, I am. I really think, like, for me, I've always just said my dogs need to know what their boundaries are, what they can and can't do, and just be generally well behaved. But if somebody like you is coming into that environment, that could be frustrating for somebody like you. How would you even approach working with somebody like me on something like that?
You have to look at each client's end goal. That if your goal is just to have a dog that you can chill with and you can maybe take to a brewery, then you want to work on activities to get to that point. If your goal is to go do an agility competition or dock diving, those are completely different goals that you have to look at the client, the goals, and then the dog in front of you itself. You, like I said, you have to look at Kim Brophy has a model called legs. It's learning, environment, genetics, and self. I mean, you have to look at the dog through that lens.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make when they get a new dog?
When they get a personal dog, I would say I mean, people don't necessarily train it or they don't look for a trainer until they have a problem. So I would say when you get a dog, give it a little bit of time to decompress, but then start training it. And if you see a behavior you don't like, that behavior is only going to become exacerbated if you don't fix it early on. We normally, as trainers, see the behavior way down the road after all those warning signs have happened, after it's just been progressing and progressing. And then when it's a major problem, that's when we typically see it. But if we see a dog from adoption point onward, we may be able to fix it a lot easier and a lot quicker, if that makes sense.
No, I think it does make sense. I think it's like, start sort of investing in that good behavior early. What's so interesting to me in being in rescue, and we're going to talk a little bit about the fact that you're also a foster with Cross Your Paws. That's how you and I got connected with each other. But what's been so interesting for me is that there's a lot of people that are so quick to give up on a dog, right? And
Right.
I think I liken it to, and people are going to hate me for this, and it is what it is, but I liken it into like having kids. Kids have behavioral issues, kids have socialization issues, and kids do crazy things like
Mhm.
biting other kids at daycare and whatever, whatever. And it's not okay to give up on your kid. And we start, I think, as parents, not we, because I'm not a parent, but a lot of parents start trying to teach good manners and good behavior early. But for some reason, when it comes to dogs, we just think they should inherently know that. And then if they don't, there's something wrong with them.
Right. I was running the other day and I have all my weird thoughts when I'm running. So I was thinking, comparing dogs to the fashion industry, how now we have quick fashion, and unfortunately now
Yeah.
we have the designer breeds like the doodles. I'm not going to name all the breeds, but I mean, you know what I mean. That
Oh, I
it's
do.
a fast thing. I mean, we want
Yeah.
our fast, like cheap clothes from Zara. We also want our dogs to be perfect, and if they're not, majority of people don't want to do the work that your dog has to be a commitment. It has to be a family member, just like you said, it's like a child in a way. I mean, obviously not quite,
Right,
but it
right.
is. There has
Yeah,
to
I
be
mean, no
work.
disrespect to parents out there, but I think it's just so interesting. I don't know how it is for you, but I get people that approach me that they're like, "Oh, this dog, I can't handle this dog anymore. I can't handle this dog anymore." And I'm like, "Well, what's really going on?" And then some of the things they describe are just normal, like either bored dog behavior or like not trained dog behavior. And I'm like, "Okay, but like what are you doing to try to like combat that?" They're
Right.
like, well, I don't know.
Well,
They didn't do it before. I'm like, but still.
and that's exactly where like a balance of enrichment and exercise and mental stimulation and I mean even sleep, if dogs don't get enough sleep, they misbehave. That there's a balance that you need to hit with that. And depending on the breed you have, a herding breed is going to need a lot more stimulation and a lot more exercise than one of the companion or toy breeds. So, like you said, whenever you are looking to get a dog, don't just pick the cutest one you see. Look for one that's going to fit your long-term lifestyle.
Right. So, do me a favor and break some of those things down a little bit for me. Break down how you um, make sure a dog gets enough sleep, because for me, it's just like the dog sleeps when the dog sleeps. But also break down what you mean by enrichment. Help everybody understand that a little bit better.
Okay. So dogs actually need a lot more sleep than most people give them credit for. I can't think of the number right now, but I think it's at least like 12 to 15 hours a day. So you figure a dog really needs probably the 8 hours of night, and this is depending on age and everything. So don't quote me, every dog needs this amount. It does depend on age and it does depend on some other factors, but then they need several naps throughout the day. If they're not getting enough sleep, they'll get cranky like humans. They'll react a little bit more. And if they're not sleeping, that could be an underlying behavior or a health problem. So you need to look at that too. That's the first thing as a trainer that we're taught to ask your client, have they gone to the vet? Have you ruled out any underlying health issues? Because dogs hide pain, discomfort so much better than humans do. They're meant to. It's an ecological thing. So that's the first thing we look to rule out. And then if they're not getting enough sleep, if they're restless, they're going to get cranky. That could be aggression. That could be come out in other forms that you just have to kind of work your way through and play detective to figure out what the dog is trying to tell you through that behavior.
So I never honestly in a million years would have looked at a problem or an issue with a dog and thought they're not getting enough sleep. Because like I said, in my brain, it's just like dogs sleep when they're tired. But I think that's a really, especially in the post-COVID days that we're in right now,
Yeah.
where a lot of people are working from home, those
Yeah.
dogs that are having that constant interaction where you're at home the whole time, they're not getting those same naps. So maybe if you are having a behavioral issue and you kind of step back a little bit and you think, okay, well, maybe my dog is really only sleeping at night when I'm sleeping. Maybe it's not a bad idea to separate them in a separate room and
Mhm.
force them to take a nap maybe while you're working during the day. That's such a really great thing I would have never even thought of.
Especially if, I mean, it's summer, kids are home. If you have a dog crate like in a high traffic area, your dog may not be sleeping enough. And that's not going to be the fix all for every behavior issue, but
For
having
sure.
your dog's crate in a safe space where it can be quiet and away from everybody, that may make a difference.
Told you, you're always teaching me stuff. That one's an eye opener for me. Really, it is. What do you consider to be some of the enrichment techniques that you'll use for dogs?
So that will mainly depend on the breed group that you're looking at, but getting a dog to use their nose is first and foremost. like number one enrichment. If you can teach a find it and then eventually progress that out to the grass where you can get the dog to be looking for food or kibble or treats in the grass, that's a phenomenal way to do it. Amazon has snuffle mats. There's a little plastic snoop that you can put treats in. It also depends on your dog. Like my dog loves certain things, and then other items of enrichment she wants nothing to do with. Like she loves her snoop, and that's like her main thing. Like she's a little bit more senior now, so she doesn't like to do as much as she used to, which is fine. But a younger dog may need a lot more variety. And that also comes into a predictability scale of if if you have the same thing every single day and it's like your favorite food at 3 o'clock, at first you're gonna be like, yeah, that's phenomenal. But then the fifth day, you're like, I kind of want something different. The 10th day, it might not be your favorite food anymore. So dogs also need that predictability to change too, depending on the dog. Some dogs like a schedule, other dogs need a little bit more like change up.
I have even heard, and I've always kind of done this, walking them in different places or taking a different route. If you
Absolutely.
walk, like our neighborhood is a loop, and so we walk the dogs in like a big route, but sometimes I'll cross the street at different places or I'll go the opposite direction because they're getting different smells in that different spot than they would on other days. So it's a little more interesting for them than if they're just doing the exact same route every single day.
Exactly. And it's like when you're driving home and you all of a sudden are home and you're like, how did I get here? But if you go a different route, you kind of have to use a different part of your mind so you're not zoning out. It's kind of like that for dogs too.
That's a really good piece of advice. What are some of the biggest training mistakes people make with their dogs? So, obviously, you said a big mistake is just not getting training. But then, when
Right.
someone does make the decision to train, what are some of the mistakes that you see people make in that process?
The biggest thing I would say is people get intimidated by a training session. I mean, I did it too at one point that in my head, I had an idea that training had to be an hour long and it had to be this, this, and this. It doesn't have to be. Like I do a lot of my training with my fosters while my coffee's brewing in the morning. We do a 15-minute training session, and that's the start of the day. Before I even have coffee, my fosters learned place, find it, come, sit. And I mean, it's not every single day, but we get a pretty good cycle down. So we do that. I also would say rushing it. That in dog training, we always say don't skip steps. If your dog's struggling with that next progression, your dog's probably not ready to go to that progression. That if you can do sit inside in your like in your apartment or your house, that's great. But if you then take him out to the park or the brewery and he can't sit, he doesn't not know it. He's not being stubborn. It's too hard. Like dogs don't necessarily, they're not stubborn. If they're not doing something, it's because it's over their capacity.
That's interesting. So, not being patient,
Hmm.
rushing it, and then maybe just getting overwhelmed by it and thinking that it has to be a certain amount of time. That's really good tips. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So you talked about how you train your fosters. So let's dive into that a little bit. How long have you been fostering for?
A year in July, actually, this past July, I have had 10 or 11, depending on who you ask,
Oh,
fosters in
wow.
the
Yeah.
past year. Yeah, so we're taking a tiny break right now.
Okay. And what led you to that?
I had kind of wanted to, and then I saw a little puppy that I think was, they were looking to get the rest of the litter. It was like one puppy left. So I signed up, kind of was like, okay, we'll see how it goes. Got really nervous because I was like, oh my God, my own dog's a little bit dog selective. Like, what am I gonna do? Thankfully, we have a spare bedroom. So with my own dogs, we create and rotate just to keep her away from the puppy and vice versa. But I mean, it worked out really well. The puppy was phenomenal. He was such a good boy, and it it gets easier every time. I cry every single time I give them up though, because I mean, you become so attached, and I mean, I ugly cry, but it's so rewarding. And each puppy has taught me one thing about life and a whole new perspective on everything, really.
Yeah. It's such a fun, hard thing to do,
It
really.
is.
But it is a lot of fun. It's really rewarding. One of the things that you mentioned to me is that you're training your fosters, and I told you I don't necessarily do that. We're putting in the work with Max.
Hmm.
because Max needs the work. And anybody that's been listening to this podcast knows about his reactivity and the work that you've had me do with him. But I have always approached fostering as my job is to make them feel safe, because a lot of times they're coming from very uncertain situations, whether they were a stray or a surrender and now they just don't know us or whatever that looks like. And I always go, my job is to make them feel safe. The owner can worry about training them how they want to train them, right? So
Right.
tell me a little bit about why that's not the approach you take, and tell me a little bit about the approach that you do take.
So I probably had that same approach early on, and then I started volunteering through Malinois Dutch Shepherd Rescue. And one of the things that they expect their fosters to do is train the dog after they've had it. A little bit different setup than Cross Your Paws, but they give you an outline what to do. They give you a Pet Academy account. So they want you to train that dog. So kind of that changed my whole outlook that I think it is a great idea if fosters get their dogs to a point that they could be adoptable, whatever that is. And I mean, if they only have the dog for a short time, that's fine. The dog gets adopted. It is then the owner's job and responsibility to train. But having a dog that's crate trained will help that dog when he does get adopted because he'll have that safe space to go to in the owner's house. He'll have that familiarity. Having him leash trained, that'll help. That not all owners have the dog experience that we do. So training the dog to make it a little bit easier for the owner, obviously a huge benefit and hopefully less returns to the rescue.
Okay, it almost sounds like you're looking at it as almost like a little bit of a marketability thing. Like, hey, this dog is crate trained, this dog is housebroken, this dog is leash trained, and it really just kind of ticks off those positive things to get the dog adopted. I like that. That makes a lot of sense too. And no, it does. I mean, I'm not saying that, and I think you would agree. There are fosters that we get in that they need to learn how to dog first,
Right.
really, and they're not necessarily in a position to take on any extra work other than just trying to feel safe. We've all met dogs like that. But there's also plenty of dogs that come into foster that just they're okay. They're good, they're happy, and they're ready and willing to learn. So I think that that's good advice. Talk to me a little about some of these basic things that are common issues with dogs. So you
Okay.
mentioned leash training and housebreaking. I'd really like to start with housebreaking. I think it's at some point every dog owner has faced a dog peeing or pooping in the house. So tell me like some quick steps as to what you have found to be the most effective way to house train a dog.
Absolutely. First and foremost, a schedule. Cross Your Paws does have a rule that for any amount of month the puppy is old, you can't leave him alone longer than that amount of hours. Um, I think that would set the dog up for success. Obviously, a schedule, get up, potty, eat, potty, play, nap, and there's schedules out there that you can even look up online. For a puppy, I have a little theory that some of the puppies that are born in shelters might be a little harder to house train, so you have to be patient with them because they may or may not have had the cleanliness that a good breeder would give. And you have to be patient. I had a puppy that just got adopted that she had a very hard time housebreaking him, but then all of a sudden he got it and he now rings the bell to go out and everything is great. So coming into that with patience too. These are rescue dogs, so you don't necessarily know where they're coming from. So they may just need a little bit more patience and a little bit more time to pick up on it, but they will. And whenever they do go potty outside, reward it. Act like it's a jackpot, give them treats, praise, everything. Like make sure it's good, but when they go inside, you can't really yell at them because they don't know better.
That was some of the tips that I had read. I had also recently picked up on a tip from a foster I follow on Instagram where she actually uses the crate as a tool for housebreaking, where basically if the dog goes outside and they're outside for on the hour that she takes the dog out or whatever, and the dog doesn't use the restroom, then when she comes back in with the dog, she puts the dog in the crate. So basically, the ability to roam free in her apartment
Okay.
is the reward for having gone potty outside. And she has said that for her particular foster that she has right now, that that's working really well. What do you think about something like that?
I think that's great as long as the dog is crate trained because I've also had puppies that weren't necessarily crate trained, so then they'd have an accident in the crate and that's a mess. Um, I think it depends on the dog. I think some dogs would do really well with that, but other dogs, if they're not necessarily crate trained yet, you're going to be coming into a mess of a crate that you want to avoid that at all costs.
Let's talk about crate training next. What do you consider to be a crate trained dog, and how do you approach that? Because I have had fosters that I put them in the crate and they fully shut down.
Mhm.
And I don't like that for them because I feel bad. So tell me a little bit about how you approach that with your fosters.
Ideally, you would give the dog time to go into the crate themselves, maybe throw some treats in there, and slowly let them know that is a safe space. You could feed them in the crate to let them know, like, that's where the good things are coming, their dinners are coming in there, maybe have a little bed in there. That's not always feasible because sometimes if you're going to leave the house, you need to have the dog in a safe location. So you may have to put the dog in the crate, but the slower you can introduce them to the crate, the better it's going to be. And you want to make sure you do it after they've gone outside, gone potty. Because, like I said, I've had some puppies that are not crate trained at all. And then you come home to a crate that's a mess that you're kind of setting them back in one, you don't want them to ever go to the bathroom in the crate. And then two, they're going to learn the crate's not necessarily the best place if they are having that little anxiety when you leave, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that absolutely does make sense. And what about leash training? I've never done anything formal as far as leash training. I kind of just put the leash on and I'm like, all right, we're gonna figure this out. Let's go for a walk together, right? Talking to me, you said earlier in an email, oh, you do a good job. I'm like, girl, I am informal as hell. You have no idea. So, like, so how do you approach a leash training? What does that look like for you?
So I actually live in an apartment, so most of my puppies I put a leash on and they're fine. To leash train a dog, I would start slow. I would start inside, minimal distractions. I mean, if we're at the point that they don't know a leash or collar at all, put the collar on, take it off, give them a treat. Put the leash on, take it off, give them a treat, and then slowly do that. But if they know leash and everything, you could start inside, do some inside turns, outside turns, backpedal in the house. When they know that, take it outside to a field where no one's around, minimal distractions, slowly start doing that. Obviously, that's not always feasible, that you have to also work in your own environment. That if you live in an apartment complex, that may be where you have to learn leash, that it might not be minimal distractions, but that's going to be your hometown, your home turf. So you got to practice also where you're from.
I'm hearing for everything you've said so far, I'm hearing go slow, be
Hmm.
patient, have treats on hand, and keep doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that summarizes it pretty
I
much.
mean, really, it's because what I want people to be able to take away from this is the ability to sort of break down some of these complicated and, like you said, could be intimidated things into some steps that are attainable,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're looking to try to get into people's hands. One thing though that is not like a go slow thing, I don't think, is jumping on people.
Right.
Uh Cheese does it. My dog Cheese. Max does it. I mean, I have never been good at training them not to jump on people. I literally just push them down and I'm like, knock it off. And it's like crazy chaos when somebody first gets there. So how can I do a better job of getting that out of Max and Cheese?
So you can have the people meet the dog on their level. So treats come down, petting comes down, and I mean, if they are jumping, give them a little bit of a walk away and then try it again. That you want to obviously go slow, use a lot of rewards, and I think sometimes jumping is a problem with impulse control. I think sometimes it's a problem with frustration. You kind of have to figure that out too, that if is your dog just frustrated that he wants to be close to you, or is it he doesn't have that impulse control that he just wants what he wants when he wants it and he's gonna jump up because he wants to be like in your face. That's kind of what you have to boil down to, that we're working on that with a client right now and teaching weight, teaching like four on the floor is something a lot of shelters use. Four feet has to be on the floor before they get any attention. So using that and once again reinforcing patience, all of that good stuff too.
Oh boy, it really all comes down to those four things. So, tell me a little bit about some of the organizations that you're currently working with. Obviously, you have a relationship with Cross Your Paws, and you mentioned Mad Rescue, but who else are you working with?
I've done a little bit of work with Animal Friends, not as much right now. I'm involved in the Beaver Humane Society. I possibly am going to be working on something new with them that I'll have to let you know about. And then I just got accepted to Pets for Vets, so I'm working through the training with them.
That's amazing. Tell me a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So, what's going to happen once I get through training is Chris, my fiance, will be my assistant because you have to have one, and we'll get paired with a vet, and then we'll look to help him. I'll look to help him find a dog. I'll have a mentor that I'll send evaluation videos of this dog and use his personality to gauge if they're going to be a match. I'll have a lot of access to this mentor, so it'll really progress me along in training as well. So I should learn so much along the way. And then Chris and I will meet with this veteran outside his house or his or her house. And then once things have progressed that we're comfortable, we would then bring the dog to his or her house. So a lot more to come on that, but really great organization, it seems like.
That's incredible. Is that a nationwide organization or is that local to
It
this
is.
area?
Yeah, they just got a
Okay.
trainer in Hawaii, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you apply for that? You were like, I will relocate.
I'm looking at that.
I don't blame you one bit. Hawaii is insane and so beautiful out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else, any other tips, any other kind of nuggets of information that you want to try to get into as many ears as you can? I don't have a big, huge audience yet, but maybe one day.
You will. I mean, the thing I'd like to impart just wisdom to everybody is the dog training industry is not regulated. So anybody can say, I've grown up with dogs and I want to be a dog trainer. So make sure your dog trainer is learning. Make sure they're following some kind of standard, whether that's IAABC, CCBDT, ADPT is coming out with a new one, it seems like. Make sure they're staying up on knowledge. And if you don't feel comfortable doing something or having a trainer do something to your dog, advocate for your dog and speak up for them. They don't have a voice, so you have to be that voice for them.
I love that. I think it's changing, Lauren. I think positive reinforcement is having a moment in our
Absolutely.
world.
It
And I
is.
think it's a well-deserved moment. I mean, I remember the whole if your dog pees in the house, rub your face in it.
I
You
do
know what I mean?
too.
I'm a child of the
Yeah.
80s. And I'm going to be completely honest, when I got my first dog as an adult, I did that because that's what I knew. That was what
Right.
I was taught to do. So, I think that's such a great tip. Make sure you're researching who you're getting to come out and train your dog. Make sure that their training philosophy lines up with what you want for your dog because ultimately if it doesn't, you're not going to have success past that training session anyway, and then you're paying good money and good time for something that's not really going to follow through.
Exactly. And you can train without fear or pain. Fear and pain do not need to be a part of it.
I love that. I love that. So, how can people find you, Lauren? How can people work with you? How can people get great information from you?
just email you and just kidding.
So am I your secretary now?
So you can find me
I'm
on,
Lauren at Wisely's administrative assistant.
thanks, Kelly. I'm just kidding. You could find me on Instagram. You could find me on Facebook, Choose Wisely Dog Training, or you could email me at choosewiselydogtraining.com, at gmail.com.
So
Or you could reach out to
choose
Kelly.
yeah. So choose wisely dog training at gmail.com. And I believe your Instagram is choose underscore wisely underscore training. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So make sure you follow Lauren on Instagram. Make sure you get some really great tips from her. She's always putting up such really, really, really valuable information, and she's a great resource. So, Lauren, thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you said you had a crazy busy week. So, thanks so much for sharing such incredible information, and good luck with Pets for Vets too.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Congratulations. It's well earned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to Lauren from Choose Wisely Training for the interview, for the conversation, and for her amazing tips. So, today for our foster spotlight, we're going to talk about a really special dog that we have at Cross Your Paws named Floyd. I actually met Floyd at an event when we had Sadler, and he's a really great dog, but he definitely needs a very particular type of family. So I'm going to read Floyd's bio, and if you're interested in seeing some pictures or some video, you can head over to crossyourpaws.com. You can head over to their Facebook page, or of course, you can follow my Instagram page, the Foster Files podcast, and I'm going to have pictures and videos on there of Floyd. Meet Floyd. This pretty boy Floyd is not a bank robber, but he just might steal your heart. Floyd is a 3-year-old neutered plot hound and weighs about 65 pounds. He is as athletic as he is handsome. He would do best in an active home that would allow him to release his energy. He walks well on a leash and would love to be a hiking buddy. As a scent hound and a breed bred for hunting, he might do best with a fenced in yard to keep him wandering away from following a scent, but it is not required. He also would benefit from a laid back home. Because of his energy level and height, he would be best in an adult only home. He's house and crate trained and likes to lay on the couch. He's a super affectionate, thinks he's a lap dog, and loves to get kisses. He's a great dog looking for his forever home. So it looks like here, according to all the information that we have about Floyd, he is dog friendly, cat friendly, he's housebroken, neutered, and I will say he is dog selective. It's notated on there. So what that means is that not everyone is going to get along with everyone, just like with people. And this particular dog can be a bit reactive and dog selective. So, of course, like with any adoption, a meet and greet with Floyd and any existing pets would need to happen in order for an adoption to be completed. So if you're interested in checking out that really, really handsome, beautiful dog that's been in our rescue just way too long, head over to crossyourpaws.com, my Instagram page, or Cross Your Paws' Facebook page. As a reminder, I am still talking about our Wags and Wine fundraiser. It's taken place at Bellaterra Vineyards in Hunker, Pennsylvania on September 19th from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. So there is a limit of tickets. There's only 100 sold, and they do sell out every year. So they are recommending to get tickets sooner rather than later. You can go to the Cross Your Paws Facebook page and click on the link under the event. That is the best way to get tickets. I'm actually going to post the link in my bio so that you can go right there to get tickets. And also, you can DM me, and I'd be happy to send you the link so that you can get tickets and support a great cause. So, thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate everybody who's been sticking with the podcast thus far. It means a lot to me to see those download numbers. Make sure that you are following the show. I think you can rate it and review it at this point. So if you want to do that, that would be super helpful. And then, of course, follow the Instagram page, the Foster Files podcast. If you have a dog you'd like me to feature or somebody that you think I should talk to, you can email me at the Foster Files podcast at Gmail. And as always, remember, if we all save one, together we can save them all.